Hi, everybody. We're here to talk about the Pisces new moon this time. So let's have a look at what's going to happen as of the 20th of February. If you're in the Western United States, or Canada, so Mountain Time or Pacific Time, then this will be on the 19th of February for you. And for the rest of the world, it's going to be overnight or in the morning of the 20th of February. It's a really lovely new start. I'm quite partial to Pisces stellium because I have one myself, although it doesn't look like this one, but it tends to be very inspirational, very soft energy, very compassionate. And I really feel that one of the messages of this new moon is actually a sense of compassion in action, getting us to realize where it is that we need to sort of put our ideals to work. And that is, of course, for ourselves as well as for the collective betterment. So there are quite a number of really favorable aspects that are going to support this kind of view. And there are a number of challenges as well, which can be expected. But let's just go back about a month to see that at the time of the Aquarius new moon that was on the 21st of January, we also had a kind of a sense of an entree of what to expect when Pluto crosses over to that point, because the Aquarius new moon was also at this first degree point. So there's a very strong message of this, there's something flipping over, there's something starting now, something different is happening in the weeks and months ahead. And because this Pluto energy is going to be going back and forth over that point, essentially from the end of March 2023, all the way through till April of 2025, I think it's quite a long time, we actually could get a glimpse of what it is that we're going to be focusing on over these next 2 years that Pluto is going back and forth over that point. And in much the same way, this new moon is paving the way for Saturn to go through Pisces much, much sooner. It's coming already in a couple of weeks, so that will happen the 7th of March, but it's already going to be approaching that degree point. We're going to start to really sense that already by the end of February. So this is a really interesting place to put your attention. Start to notice what's going on in the area of life that is where Pisces is found in your natal chart, and kind of track that from the time of this new moon, this cycle of the new moon, which will include the ingress of Saturn. So quite interestingly, the new moon is very much going to be tied to the ingress of Saturn on the 7th of March. We have quite a lot of issues around money in this chart, money and potentially relationships as well. And that will be collective, of course, and it also is very much about our personal situation. We have, to begin with, Venus, which is exalted. Venus loves being in Pisces, and Venus is in a quite harmonious sextile to Pluto. That intensifies all of the aspects of Pluto and Venus coming together, which is about deep passion. It's about trying to get to a deeper understanding of relationships, or potentially around money again. And in Pisces, it's going to be something to do with a more spiritual aspect of our relationships and our way of dealing with money, a sense of higher values, I think you could call this. Pluto's amazing when it comes in a really favorable contact with planets. It really brings out the depth and complexity of the planets. And so that late degree, the final degree of Pisces that Venus is in, is a very spiritual part of the chart. It's something to do with releasing our need for material comforts. This is not the same thing as the World Economic Forum's "you will own nothing and be happy." It's not about that. It's really about understanding that we aren't happy because of our material comfort. We're happy for more profound reasons than that. And this could be also one of the deeper messages of this lovely sextile with Pluto and Venus. Now, Venus is also in a semi-sextile to Saturn, which in turn is in a semi-sextile to Pluto. And that's quite disruptive. And I would say that there's so many other indicators in this chart about money For example, the trine between Mercury and Mars, Mercury ruling that Mars is still in Gemini after all this time, and so many other aspects that are disruptive. For example, that semi-sextile between Mars and Uranus, which is again reflecting back issues of money. Now, of course, there's been quite a lot of disruption around money in the last few years. I think this is something to do with issues of security, particularly because we're still talking about Uranus in Taurus. Mars is shaking that up. Mercury is shaking that up by a square to Uranus from Aquarius. And also that whole thing between the Pluto with the Saturn and Venus being so closely linked to each other, there could very well be some issue around banking, and that wouldn't be terribly surprising because banks are essentially insolvent and they have been for many years. But this could be, one of those tipping points, and I think we'll probably see that more strongly when Pluto changes signs, but already possibly once Saturn changes signs. You can just, for example, consider putting extra money here and there in different places, not keeping your money, strictly speaking, in a bank as a way of safekeeping, because beyond a certain point, banks don't guarantee that you get your money back if there's a run on the bank or if they fail. Now, these things are definitely in the air. So this is not something that's being stimulated by this new moon. It's not something that's being caused by it. It would be a kind of a flashpoint. So for those of you who are investing heavily, or you do have savings, or you're wondering what to do about your money, this is where you want to put some of your attention around the time of this new moon. Very interestingly, the symbolism of the nakshatras is very powerful here at this new moon as well. It's in Shatabhishek nakshatra, and that is very much about how we need to ground our ideas in the things that might be ideals or our higher ethics or higher ideals in something very pragmatic, something very practical. And yet, in the same way, it also represents anything practical needing to have a higher meaning. And so the two go hand in hand, and this is very powerfully illustrated by Saturn, which is still in Aquarius at almost the last degree, which is conjunct this new moon. And so that's very much that sort of sense of idealizing through the Shatabhishek degree where the new moon is, but needing to make it real, needing to make something serious of it. And that's what Saturn is helping here with. It's giving something more gravitas. I see that as quite helpful, especially on an individual level. It's kind of like getting serious. Get serious now about how you want to ground what it is that you hope for in the area of Pisces in your natal chart. Especially what you want not only just now in this lunar cycle that's about the next 28 days or so, but also that cycle of Saturn, the 3 years that are starting at the 7th of March with Saturn going through that very point. So this new moon is showing us where Saturn wants us to get serious, and it's going to be passing over this new moon degree point 3 times in 2023. It's essentially sort of the theme of Saturn in 2023. So do take note of what's going on around the time of this new moon, whether it be 19, 20, 21 February. Take good notes of what's going on, how you feel inspired as well, and find ways to ground that into something that's very practical and helpful for you. So Saturn reaches this exact point between the 8th and the 15th of March. Then by retrograde, it comes back again, and that will be the last week of September, first week of October, roughly. And once again in early December as it's going in direct motion. So keep those periods of time in mind as well, because they'll just keep adding to the information that is coming in through this new moon and through the new movement that Saturn is asking you to engage in. Interestingly, again, there's a recollection of a degree point because Mars has been going back and forth over this particular degree, a 15-degree point of Gemini, already in last December. So this is something that this is territory you would have understood or covered last December, something that Mars was telling you in the area of Gemini in your chart. And I think collectively, this is very, very much related to communication as well. It was then, and it certainly is now. We've got Mars, which is trining Mercury, Mercury ruling that Mars, and that Mars trining Mercury is really about communicating an urgent message or communicating something that needs to be clarified. This can be, again, with regards to business or with regards to education or some kind of communication between friends, potentially Mercury and Gemini both representing friends, where there may have actually been some disruption. Now there's a potential for real healing. So this is a 3-degree orb, which is still a useful orb to reflect on, especially when it's happening right at the same time as the new moon. But that Mars is now currently at this point, almost the same point that it was at the Gemini full moon of December 8th of 2022. So go back into December and have a look at what was going on in that first and early part of the second week. I think you'll get some information there as well about what has been changing for you, what's been going on in that aspect of your chart, in that area of your chart. Now, the ruler of this new moon and the stellium in Pisces is a very feisty Jupiter. It's in Aries. Jupiter is approaching Chiron, so Jupiter will be conjunct Chiron in a couple of weeks' time. And that Jupiter and Chiron is approaching this conjunction, which will be exact around the beginning of March. And Venus will be at that point as well. So we're really looking at something that is brewing in terms of, again, it looks like healing or resolving an issue that may have already begun last year, because we're now coming back over a degree that Chiron was already at earlier last year in 2022. Jupiter has never been this far along in Aries, not in this particular transit anyway, not since 2011. So there's definitely something new in the area of your chart where Aries is found. And this is going to be once again about value, about money, about our sense of our identity or our self-esteem. Venus, Jupiter coming together is wonderful for relationships. And that can also be interpreted as something that's profoundly healing in relationships, because Chiron will be there as well. And so if there is something that you're noticing right now around relationships in terms of what you're lacking or what you're regretting or what it is that you want to find in relationships, I think these next 2 weeks between now and the full moon, which we're going to see on the 7th of March, and this is a really wonderful time between that 20th of February roughly and the point at which these planets come together around the 2nd of March. So if this isn't about relationships for you around the time of this new moon or in the couple of weeks after that, it can also be with regards to, of course, your money. That was the other aspect of Venus, but it can also be with regards to other things that you just feel really passionate about, particularly with that Venus so strong in this lovely strong sextile with Pluto. The sextile is actually perfected the day before the new moon, but it's certainly very, very active. A sextile is very harmonious, but it does require a bit of effort. It requires you to take some kind of action for things to get done. It can be good luck. It can be something just kind of happening like that, but it's usually that there's an opportunity and you need to take action. You need to make something happen. Now, if we come to the more tricky, sticky bits of this new moon, we do have that square between Mercury and Uranus, which can be extremely vibrant in terms of understanding something or coming to new insights around something, even inventing things or having a real solution to something that may have been blocked for some time. It certainly will make for very lively conversation, but because Mars is also still in Gemini and affecting that Mercury by trine and affecting that Uranus by semi-sextile, it could be disruptive conversations, it could be arguments, or it could be some real hot-headed type of debates, challenging debates. So definitely keep that in mind, as that Pluto intensity can also lead, especially Pluto semi-sextiling Saturn, can lead people to be a little bit overly bullish on things, that there's too much intensity, too much dogmatism. Just don't let yourself get caught up in arguing for the sake of it. For the keyboard warriors among you, just stay off and go for a walk. Ground that ideal in something real. So you have this ideal that you want to see something change. Otherwise, you probably wouldn't be wanting to argue with people, but perhaps, embody it, ground it first, and then see if you really still need to say anything. And of course, this especially applies in individual face-to-face relationships. Being careful not to push people around with your worldview that may not be shared. And that doesn't make the competing worldview wrong. It's just different. I think we've lost touch now with the capacity to actually be in a relationship with someone who doesn't share all of our beliefs. And we're really at a dangerous place there. So this could be another meaning here with all of this energy here in Pisces. Pisces is extremely tolerant. It's compassionate. And it's about trying to see how similar we are, how connected we are, rather than trying to highlight the differences. The challenge is that, especially in the way that we're communicating around the time of this new moon, the differences can be highlighted. The differences can come in between that. But keep in mind that this moon is signifying something that is going to be triggered by Saturn, a slow-moving planet, very, very shortly after. Within 2 weeks of this moon, we're going to feel something very, very different in our culture and in our personal lives. So yeah, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, to roll out that trite expression. Just to add to the fun, we've got Venus, which is in a semi-square to Uranus. So a semi-square is exactly what it sounds like. It's a half of a square. And Venus is in this very tight semi-square with Uranus. And so that also is something very volatile around money, around relationships. Can be very exciting. Volatile doesn't necessarily mean bad, but volatile nonetheless. And that can also lead to a certain amount of unreliability. So just be careful as well in terms of what it is that you expect from other people. Maybe be tolerant and open to things having to change, especially with Uranus in reflecting in this new moon very, very powerfully, but also being committed to being consistent yourself. One of the challenges with all mutable signs is an inconsistency, and Pisces is a mutable sign. So that tendency to be not too stable and be changeable in a way that makes it feel unreliable for other people. So that might be causing some rifts in relationship. So this new moon is very much about that energy of compassion in action, making something real, making something grounded, giving form to the things that we feel emotionally or in our soul. What is it that the soul urge is asking us for? And making an effort, that Saturn conjunct this new moon, making an effort to make that real, make something of it. Venus being conjunct Neptune is definitely very compassionate, but it can also be a little bit delusional. And again, it's a question where that line is. Is it genuinely something spiritual and not really tangible that you're experiencing or desiring, or is it just a dream? Is it just a thought, and there's no grounds for making something real, making something lasting? With the energy of both Pluto and Saturn very powerful at the time of this new moon, I think what you're looking for is to make something real and tangible in this next cycle. And for anything that's not real, that is showing you that it's not reliable, then it's time to let it go. Just move on. Saturn is very much about just letting go of things that are not appropriate for you, and Pluto is really about finding that deep transformational quality that allows you to turn on your heel and walk away. So finding this grounded purpose through your higher aims and ideals is going to be very much what this next cycle is all about. And you can see that as a theme for what Saturn is here to show us for the next 3 years. So it's, I think, quite a very uplifting, to my mind, and significant new moon, even if it comes with certain pitfalls and some challenges. Always keep that sense of needing to ground the realistic aspects of life. Do I have cash in my pocket in case I can't get money out of the bank machine, with the aspirations of living a higher minded life? Can I overcome the difficulties of the past, and can I overcome whatever challenges I'm experiencing now? So I really see this very, very strongly in this new moon. It's something that I find really empowering, very interesting energy that you can again go back in time, go back to September. The Pisces full moon was September 10th of 2022. At that full moon, we understood something was being revealed, something was being kind of finished, maybe a culmination or an ending of something. And now it's like that cycle is moving into a new one. So there's the ending and now the new beginning. In some ways, you might still be carrying on what was relevant in the last cycle, the last 6 months, but it looks like, in fact, most things are going to be refreshed and completely rebooted. So let's have a look now at what it is that each sign is going to experience with this new moon energy. And we'll go sign by sign. That includes your sun, moon, and ascendant or rising sign. Aries, this is happening in your 12th house. This is actually a lovely place to have a Pisces new moon, because it actually is like a fresh breeze in your spiritual life, in your sense of what's going on behind the eyes, as it were, everything that you're not really seeing clearly. That can be mystical and spiritual, or it even could be literal, meaning that it's people who are far away and something new is happening in those relationships. If there is any issue, for example, of escapism or addiction or anything that might be undermining your well-being, then this new moon also will help you with that. This new moon is like a fresh start in any of those aspects of your life where you really need to take a step back and look at how you are maybe your own worst enemy in some ways, and how you could improve that. Now, the ruler of this new moon is in your first house, in your sign, Aries. And so this is pretty nice. I really do see this as something very inspiring for Aries. It's going to give you a possibility or a sense of can-do, a real sense of moving forward in life. There's a fresh new start in terms of your attitude towards perhaps your sense of deeper motivations, and even a sense of being able to let go of something that had been disrupting you or disturbing your peace for a long time. It's allowing you to turn the page in many ways. And then very soon you're going to have Venus moving into your first house, and you're just going to be feeling wonderful when that happens, very within hours of this new moon. And so it's very, very much for Aries, a real new start. Jupiter is going to be bringing you a lot of energy right through till the middle of May. And this is going to be an opportunity now in this new moon energy to see where it is that you want to put more of your attention going forward, especially as you've got Pluto moving into your 11th house of hopes and wishes and dreams, and going to be changing all of that over the next few years to come. And you also have Mars, your ruler, in the 3rd house still. It's been there since last August. And that is also moving in a really favorable way now. It's moving very quickly and will be able to give a lot of energy to whatever projects that you have underway. The 3rd house is all about your willpower and the things that you want to learn and do, how you can be really dynamic. And so Mars going through there is really supportive for Aries. That's going to give you a real sense of boost. And so it's a really lovely energy of new starts, and that can give you a real boost on your spiritual or healing journey. So good luck with all of that, Aries, and I'll see you in the next video. Taurus, this is your ruler now being exalted at the time of this Pisces new moon. And that's a wonderful feeling, because whatever your ruler is doing, you somehow indirectly feel that. It's like putting yourself there. And now this is going to be happening in your 11th house, where the stellium in Pisces is. And this is also really lovely for all kinds of relationships and just dreams come true kind of energy. So I do think that for Taurus, this is going to be a really wonderful, fresh new start in so many ways. And because your ruler is exalted in this house of friends and the money you earn from whatever it is that you do and social recognition and all of those really positive aspects of life, I think something quite positive and uplifting is in store for you right now. Whatever is going on around the time of this new moon is going to give you a glimpse into the area of your life that you want a fresh start in. And when Saturn moves into the 11th house, it's definitely going to change your relationships with friends. It's going to have you reassessing friendships and the people that you hang out with, and even causes like social causes. Is this still something that you support? Or are you learning about new causes or new areas of life that you want to put more energy into? So I think this new moon is going to be able to show you quite a lot of where you want to go in the next 3 years while Saturn is going to move in there. The ruler of this new moon is Jupiter, and Jupiter is still in your 12th house. It's going to be there until the middle of May. So there's definitely something here that you can reflect on in terms of your spiritual values and the things that you want to experience in your more hidden aspects of life. That can be unconscious motivations or recognition of how it is that you're behaving in your life that's not really supportive for you. So the new moon in your 11th house can also be potentially new sources of income if you're doing something different around work, which clearly Saturn has been changing for you over the last 3 years. That could really show up right now, and that can show up in the way of either a new way of earning money or a potential pay increase, because we've got Venus there as well. This can be better seen in an individual chart, so it's not really guaranteed for all of you, but certainly that's one way that this new energy can appear in your life. So potentially something gained in your earnings, and at the very least, something very beneficial through friendships that you can understand about where you want to put more of your energy going forward. So good luck with this, Taurus, and I'll see you in the next video. Gemini, this is happening in your house of career and the thing that you do in the world, how you stand out in the world. This is a lovely place to have a new moon. It feels like a breath of fresh air in that area of your life. That can also include your relationship status, by the way. So that could also be something that is coming up through relationship for you. The new moon in the 10th is definitely an opportunity for you to change something in the way that you work and how you show up in the world. So that could be also a very good time for you to plan, strategize around changing work or asking for more recognition at work, for example. Bear in mind that you've got Jupiter in the 11th house, which is the second house to the 10th, meaning it's the money that you earn from whatever it is that you do in the 10th house. And Venus will soon be approaching that Jupiter. Jupiter is ruling this new moon. And so there can very much be something to do with a pay rise or some advantage in terms of how you work. And that can include friends in high places giving you a boost. You've had this basically since Christmas time, and it continues right through till the middle of May. So you're now in a situation where you can really actively take advantage of new opportunities and expand your sense of what it is that you want to do. Perhaps go back to last September, where we had the Pisces full moon around the 10th, and see what was going on in your career around that time. But also go back to the 8th of December, where you had the Gemini full moon, and see what was going on in terms of you at that time. This is something that might give you some clues as to what's changing for you. And finally, Mars is still in your first house, where it's been since last August. And yes, we're still going on about Mars in Gemini. It's going to continue to be there all the way till the 25th of March. So we've got a few more weeks to deal with this while you've got all of that energy in your first. This could be contributing to something very new happening in your 11th house, because that Mars, which is in your first house, is actually ruling that Jupiter, which is ruling this moon. And so when you start to look at the rulerships and how they tie in together, you start to see how you can engage yourself personally, because this is Mars in the first house, in the career movement that you want to see, or in the benefit of the career movement that you want to see, which could include a pay rise, for example. And this Mars that's in your first house is actually in a really harmonious trine to your ruler, Mercury, which is in the ninth, which is really about where it is that you want to go in life. It's very much about your sense of purpose, the higher purpose. It's not like little day-to-day goals, which is more the third house. This is about your overarching sense of what it is that you're here for. And maybe after all this time, this Mars energy is now triggering something that says, I want something more, I want something bigger. Because certainly when Mercury goes through the ninth house, it thinks big. And so keep thinking big and use these next couple of weeks to strategize about how you can grow into this new phase before Saturn moves into the 10th house, giving you more responsibility, more ambition than you've had for a long time. And this is something that's going to set you off on a whole new path. So best wishes for all of that, Gemini, and I'll see you in the next video. Cancer, this Pisces new moon is trining your sign in the ninth house. This is really supportive energy. It's both water signs that really understand each other. So you really get the energy of this new moon. And it's definitely a new beginning in terms of ninth house issues, which is very much to do with your sense of higher purpose. This can lead to a real desire for some kind of new expansion and adventure and real positive new direction in your life. It's a lovely house. The ninth house is a wonderful energy, and having the sun there is fantastic. And now with a new moon, it's really triggering something you're going to be thinking about and feeling about, something very significant over the next month. And that, of course, is going to set the stage for Saturn moving in there, where it's going to ground something. It's going to be making something real in the area of the ninth house. This could have something to do with learning, higher education. It can be more philosophical learning as well. It's more of a sense of your spiritual or philosophical attitude towards life. And this is a lovely, fresh new start. Venus has already been here for a couple of weeks before this new moon. And so you've already been feeling this wonderful sense of expansion and higher purpose and a freshness that's coming in. And shortly after this new moon, Venus is going to be shifting into your 10th house, where Jupiter already is. And Jupiter rules this new moon. So it definitely has something to do with a new identity around career or marital status, or the role that you play in this world. It's a very personal energy that is coming up for you right now, but in a really supportive way. Keeping in mind that the moon is your ruler, and this new moon is something that you want to track in terms of how you grow forward in your life. So you might like to reflect on the full moon in September that was happening in this part of your chart around the 10th of September. And that was giving you some sense of what had either achieved its end, the kind of completion or culmination of something that had gone before, or that it was actually something showing you where it was you needed to expand into. And now this new moon it's kind of the beginning of another phase in that. So you've already gone through that process in the past year since the previous Pisces new moon and then the full moon in September. And now you've got this whole new cycle. It's very, very dynamic, very supportive in the ninth house. So it feels like sort of stretching your wings. It's not going to come without challenge, because Saturn is conjunct this new moon, and Saturn will be moving into that part of your chart pretty much for the rest of 2023. So Saturn in the ninth is not as disturbing, let's say, as it is in other houses. It really is just about getting serious about all of these aspects that are ninth house aspects, issues of purpose and what it is that you want to learn in the bigger sense of life, or could be some higher learning in terms of university learning. And Saturn actually gives you the stamina, and it gives you a sense of drive and a sense of grounding. So for Cancer, this actually is really welcome to have that Saturn moving through the ninth house, even if in the beginning it can feel like a bit of an obstacle. So good luck with all of that, Cancer, and I'll see you in the next video. Leo, this is an 8th house stellium in Pisces for you, and that of course includes your ruler, the sun. And wherever your ruler goes, you want to put a lot of attention, because it's kind of where you are personally implicated. In this case, the 8th house can do with things that are hidden from you. It can be psychological, something fresh and new, starting in an understanding around your deeper psychological nature. It could also be around fears, that you're realizing something that you're needing to change, around something that's holding you back. because our fears are nothing more than things that are just holding us back from growing and expanding. You've already had Venus going through this part of your chart. And so if there has been relationship issues or issues within arrangements around shared resources, whether that be through marriage or through business partnerships, Venus looks like she's been helping you with that. And now this new moon is also offering a new opportunity. So maybe there's a new start. That could be anything from a new business project or a new business relationship to a greater sense of harmony in your relationships as well. And of course, that's especially with regards to intimate ones or very important business relationships. The ruler of this new moon is in your 9th house, which is also deeply inspiring. Jupiter in the 9th in Aries, which is very dynamic, is giving you a real oomph right now. It's giving you a real sense of possibility. And so this is quite good. Get clear on what it is that you want to see in the bigger picture in your life with Jupiter going through here. Because when Saturn moves through your 8th house starting in March, it's going to really start to restrict financial issues or financial opportunities and force you to take things very seriously in that regard. That can also include business partnerships or marriage, where something needs to be restructured, something needs to change. Notice what this new moon is already highlighting, because Saturn is conjunct the new moon. And so there's a definite tie there between the 7th and the 8th house, and showing you the way forward in all of this. If you're interested in learning more about astrology or developing more occult type practices, this is also a wonderful time to do that, because you've got this real fresh energy that says, this is something I really want to delve into. Jupiter is going to support that, being the ruler of this new moon in the 9th house of higher learning, of expanded knowledge, of expanded ideas. And so if you are a budding astrologer, or you want to get deeper into astrology, or you love tarot, or you love any other kind of divination, whether it be shamanic type or runes or something like that, this is a great opportunity for you to really get deeper into that. Equally, if it has something to do with psychology or counseling, because these are houses where we can use those skills really profoundly for people, particularly when Saturn moves into this house. It can be a real opportunity for those of you who are working already in these fields of counseling and psychology and even the occult, to really organize yourself and get serious about your business. Get really serious about doing it instead of just talking about it. So pay attention to what this new moon is asking you. Notice what the sun moving through Pisces for the next month is trying to show you in this regard, and you'll get a lot of your answers by the end of the month. So good luck with all of this, Leo, and I'll see you in the next video. Virgo, this is happening in your 7th house. That's a lovely place to have a new moon. It's a breath of fresh air. It's a bright new start in relationships of all kinds. So you could kind of reboot relationships. And your ruler, Mercury, is in the 6th house, which is really good for work as well, really good for getting things done. It's there with Saturn still, so you've been quite serious. And whatever is coming up there is going to be very productive for you. The ruler of this new moon is in your 8th house, and that is an area where you can find a lot of support from other people. Jupiter going through the 8th house is really benefic. It gives you access to, whether it be loans or money that other people can help you with, or more earnings from clients, or some kind of boost in your earnings. This is going to be even more boosted because very soon after the new moon, you've got Venus moving in there as well. So something can also be with regards to the way that you're relating intimately with people. And there you've got the 2 best planets for intimate relationships. So with Jupiter and Venus moving into that area of your chart and soon to join up along with Chiron, you're really in a great position to heal relationships, improve relationships, or start a new one, especially with that new moon in the 7th. So March is looking like a really great month for you. It's going to begin from the 20th of February. So start to notice where you want to put your attention, how you want to accelerate things, and allow yourself to be inspired by the potential for new relationships. Because your ruler is also trined by Mars, which is in your 10th house, it looks like you're going to be quite busy. And this can also set off a really interesting time of some new developments that are going to affect your career and what it is that you do in the world. So again, a great opportunity for you to start something new that is going to be quite supportive. Again, bringing that desire for something nicer, something more harmonious in your life, but grounding it with action, grounding it with something very practical that you're getting from Mercury in the 6th house and Mars in the 10th. So all in all, Virgo, I think this is a new moon with enormous potential for you, and you should definitely seize this opportunity and make the most of it. As Saturn is also conjunct this new moon, it's really going to show you something about what you want to get more serious about. When Saturn finally moves into your 7th house of relationships, you're going to be much more clear on things like boundaries, who it is that needs to be in your life, how you want to organize relationships, and even just allowing some relationships to disappear altogether. There can be a physical limitation that you and a friend or you and a loved one are separated physically, and that can be what Saturn symbolizes in the house of relationship. There's a distance between you. Maybe you're traveling or moving away, or they are. That's another way that that can look. But often it's just a feeling that you've moved on and there's something new that needs to come into relationships. So don't look back, because this is an energy of new starts in relationship, and make the most of this lovely new moon energy that's giving you a real boost in the area of life involving other people and other people's money. So make the most of it, enjoy it, and I'll see you in the next video. Libra, you've got this happening in your 6th house of everyday work, which is a lovely place as well to refresh, kind of reboot what it is that you're doing and how you do it. This can give you a fresh new start in health as well. If you've been having health issues, there can be something really new and helpful coming in here. With Venus there's already been a few weeks of Venus supporting you in your everyday work and making you feel like you've got this, you can do more work, you might feel a lot more harmony with your colleagues, for example. And then your ruler, Venus, who is exalted at the time of this new moon, is going to move into your 7th house and give you a real boost, because Jupiter is already there and Jupiter is ruling this new moon. So there's a really lovely tie-in between your everyday life, your everyday schedule or work life, your colleagues potentially, and also really important other relationships. So lots of support there, especially if there have been any tensions going on in that regard in your life. It's going to be a really nice new phase. You have Saturn that is conjoining this moon at the time of the new moon, and about 3 weeks later, it's going to move into that same position. So Saturn works really well for you, Libra. Saturn is very benefic for you because it gives you boundaries. It gives you something solid that Libra actually requires. And use this energy of Saturn at the new moon to really understand what it is that you want to see changing in your day-to-day life. Whatever was showing up for you last September, around the 10th of September in 2022, is also right now starting afresh. So you can see that whatever it was that you understood or grew into or developed last September is now kind of arriving at its ending or completion, or a feeling of culmination, a feeling that that has been done now. It's time to move into something completely fresh and start really over again. This is going to be a very supportive energy for you to show you how Saturn is going to show up in your 6th house. Saturn in the 6th is very helpful. It restructures your life, restructures your everyday, and it does, if there is any health issue, for example, give you the opportunity to resolve that health issue, but it might have to come through some difficulty in the beginning. But you really start to learn how it is that you need to take better care of yourself, how it is that you need to organize your day-to-day habits and work and so on. So Libra, enjoy exploring what it is that you want to change, what new start you want to see in your everyday life and in your work life, and how you want to carry that forward over the next 3 years while Saturn is moving through that part of your chart. All the best, Libra, and I'll see you in the next video. Scorpio, this is a lovely place to have a new moon. It's the 5th house, which is in a trine to you. Both of you are water signs. Pisces and Scorpio get along very well with a similar kind of vibe. And you're going to be experiencing something quite new and fresh in the area of your personal expression and creativity. Whatever Saturn has been showing you in the 4th house about restrictions around your sense of maybe your psychological sense, or the foundation for your happiness that may have been challenged, or even a sense of, like literally, where do I live? And is this working for me where I live? Now with this new moon conjoined Saturn, it's something that you want to be looking at, because Saturn is going to be moving into that area of your life and wanting to bring more structure there in terms of you and your creativity and how you show up in your self-expression, it can put a bit of a damper on that part of your life. It means that you have to make a little more effort around that. And usually what it is that you find a sense that you haven't really been putting much practical attention in that part of your life. And now you need to do that. You need to put more specific attention in that part of your life where Saturn is going to move in. The new moon is already showing you that, and Venus is helping because Venus has already been through this fifth house. So that it looks like there's been a lot of creative and positive energy, potentially also a new love affair. This is another thing that the fifth house represents. It's relationships, sexual relationships, fun relationships, sports relationships, teams, and so on. And it looks like that energy has been very good for you the last few weeks. And especially with the new moon there, that can also start something very new. Now, that has to be seen in your chart. It would need to be already showing up in other ways in your chart. It's not just that you get a new moon in the fifth and you get a new lover. That would be quite nice, wouldn't it? And you've got your ruler still in that eighth house. So there is something there connected to intimacy with other people's money, how you show up in relationships that are important, like business partnerships, what you benefit from. There can be some give and take that has been a bit of a challenge for you in this regard. But now there's a lot of forward momentum in this area of life. So I think it's going to feel more like you're breaking new ground in this area that may have been a bit of a struggle for the last few months. Now with Jupiter in your sixth house, again, keeping in mind that is the ruler of this new moon, Jupiter in the sixth is really beneficial, and Venus is slowly going to be adding her energy to the sixth after this new moon. And so your everyday life looks like it's going to be much more harmonious, much more pleasant in the couple of weeks following the new moon. A wonderful opportunity to connect with colleagues, to really work in a pleasant atmosphere or to develop a pleasant atmosphere as well with Jupiter and Venus there. And that creative impulse that you get from the new moon in the fifth house can actually support that. It might be a desire to bring much more fun into your everyday life or into your everyday working experience. Of course, the fifth house is also children. So for those of you who do have children, this can be a whole new start with them, something in their lives that is changing and starting over, or something in your life with regards to children. It's also the house of education and teaching and learning. And so maybe there's something there as well with that new moon. Of course, if you don't have children, but you want them, then this can also show you that as well. So the new moon is showing you something new in terms of how you feel around children. That is, I think, very uplifting, very positive. So all the best with this lovely fifth house new moon, Scorpio, and I'll see you in the next video. Sagittarius, this Pisces new moon and the stellium around it is happening in your fourth house, and that's about everything that makes you feel safe and secure and happy. This could be your physical home. It can be your sort of metaphorical home, meaning your sense of self, your deeper sense of what supports you psychologically. Something really nice and fresh is coming in here. This can be also with regards to where you live, and maybe there's a desire to change that or a desire to freshen that up in some way. With Venus going through the fourth anyway, often you feel like you want to improve your living circumstances. You want something pretty around, and that might be as big as the idea of moving house and changing completely, or it could be something to do with just renovating a new piece of furniture, a new way of decorating your surroundings to make you feel more comfortable. The ruler of this new moon is also your ruler. So both Pisces and Sagittarius are ruled by Jupiter. And so your ruler has been in the fifth house, which is a wonderful place for your ruler to be because it's very expansive and it brings you a lot of new senses of creativity and dynamism in fun areas of life. When Venus moves in there right after this new moon, it's going to add to that quality. So if you're looking for new love, or if you're looking for something new to do in terms of a passion or hobby, this is a great energy. So that new moon can also kind of energize you in that direction. It's like saying, I want more happiness in my life, and how I'm going to achieve that is something creative or something that might be to do with another person, which, by the way, could also be a child. That other person doesn't necessarily have to be a lover. Saturn, of course, is conjunct this new moon. It's going to already show you what Saturn going through that part of your chart for the next 3 years can feel like. You have quite a lot of time to get used to that because Saturn is going to be on that degree point for most of the rest of 2023. So use this new moon as a kind of an oracle and have a sense of what's going to be happening in the months to come, and aspire to something better, something more fulfilling, more positive, and really use that energy when Saturn goes through there to make it happen, to make something real. Don't be worried about Saturn going through the fourth house. Saturn in the fourth is also a great opportunity for you to buy real estate and reorganize your house if you want to renovate and do things like that. Think very practically with Saturn in the fourth. If you do have any emotional issues, this new moon will show you that there's a new way of seeing that there's something that you can do differently about your emotional or psychological sense of well-being. And when Saturn moves through that fourth house, you'll be able to restructure your life around those things that are really the foundation of your life. So think in terms of what supports you right now at this Pisces new moon, what it is that you want supporting you, how you want that to look in your life, and make the most of it, Sagittarius, and I'll see you in the next video. Capricorn, this stellium is happening in your third house. So the Pisces new moon, along with Venus and Neptune, are in your third house, and that's going to give you a real boost in terms of your community and your siblings and the people that you communicate with. It's an opportunity to kind of hit reset in that regard as well. It might be also hitting reset in terms of the goals that you have, your sort of day-to-day goals, not the higher purpose stuff, but the more pragmatic things. And when Saturn is coming through that part of your chart, you will also have that possibility. This Pisces new moon can show you where you'd like to learn something new, a new skill, or have new goals, have a new ambition. And Saturn that is conjunct this new moon right now can start to show you how you need to make that real, how you could really ground that into something very practical and very useful, for example, that you could use in business. And then when Saturn moves into that part of your chart for most of the rest of 2023, you really get a sense of how it is that you need to change or want to change this area of your life. The ruler of this new moon is in your fourth house of your sense of security and happiness. And it looks like that's been going really nicely for you. So there's also a nice message there, which is that there's something here that you have to look forward to, that organizing yourself through the Saturn third house transit is going to bring you some kind of benefit. And this new moon is showing you exactly how and where that will be. But it certainly looks like it has something to do with either home, potentially moving, or with the sense of your psychological and emotional well-being. Keeping in mind that Saturn is your ruler. And so Saturn works really well for Capricorn. Saturn is something that gives you structure. It gives you the gravitas. It gives you the sense of authority and reliability that Capricorn is known for. So using this energy going through the third house can be very helpful for you to reorganize your sense of what it is that you want to develop in your everyday life. So see what this new moon is showing you about where Saturn can help you reorganize things and get serious about developing new skills, for example, or about communication. Get serious about connecting with people in your neighborhood or even your siblings. And notice where that aspiration of this new moon is going to require the application of Saturn so that you can ground it in something real. So keep looking forward to new projects and goals in March and well beyond as Saturn goes through your third house for the next 3 years. Good luck with everything, Capricorn, and I'll see you in the next video. Aquarius, you have this new moon and the Pisces stellium in your second house, everything that supports you, including your money, your income, the stuff you own, your family, all of the things that give you a sense of being supported in life. So with this new moon here, you might have a new inkling around work or what it is that you need to do to generate more income, or how it is that you want to organize your money. You've had Venus here already for a couple of weeks, so that Venus has already shown you something, maybe a new potential, or simply good fortune, because Venus in the second house brings a lot of good fortune, and Venus is very strong in Pisces. So I'm sure you've already learned something very important over the last couple of weeks with Venus being there. Now, your ruler, Saturn, is not only in your first house, but it's also conjunct this new moon. And that's showing you something about what needs to change in this second house area of life, money and how you organize it, and income and how you earn it, and even the relationship to the value of money. So this new moon is already pointing the way. It's showing you something now in this area of your life. And then Saturn will go in and ground it. It's going to make something more serious. Saturn going through the second house has a very interesting effect, depending on the natal chart, of course, but it can make some people very wealthy because you learn to manage your money so well. And equally, it can also cause a lot of suffering because your money is not being well managed, or you're not earning the kind of money that you need to feel secure. Either way, Saturn is going to show you what is true. And the only solution is how you can then find that aspiration, which I think this new moon is showing you, in terms of how it is that you value yourself and how you earn money, and taking action in terms of making that work for you over the next couple of weeks in terms of the new moon, and over the next almost 3 years in terms of Saturn moving through there. So good luck with all of that, Aquarius, and I'll see you in the next video. Pisces, this is your new moon. It's in your first house of self. And now you're setting your sights on a whole new you and a very big structural change for your life. This can involve your home and your work and your relationships, and especially all of that, particularly in March, when Saturn moves into that house representing you. So Saturn on this new moon is already indicating something of what it is that you see changing, where it is that you want to change, where do you want to move, do you want to change jobs, do you need to change your relationship, do you personally need to change? All of those things are being shown now in terms of a fresh new motivation, a fresh desire for something different. Venus has been going through your first house now for the last couple of weeks, making you feel really good about yourself, making you feel really optimistic and attractive, and having people feel like they're drawn to you. They really want to be with you. And shortly after this new moon, Venus moves into the second house, which is all about money, the money that you earn and the stuff that you own, and even how you earn your income. And Venus is going to be joining up with Jupiter, who's already in the second house. And so if there's an issue around money, it looks like it's going to be really improving for you. Now, it has to be said as well that both Venus and Jupiter together can be very self-indulgent. And because it's in the sign of Aries, it can also be very impulsive energy. And so we can honestly say that there will be a lot of interest or a lot of activity around money in that second house, but that doesn't guarantee that the money is going to stay in your pocket or stay in your bank. It's a lot of interest around money, potentially in the sense of spending it. Be careful that if there is a tendency for you to go overboard, that you make sure you set something aside, that you don't get too carried away with spending on things that you really don't need or potentially can't afford. So just bear that in mind. Saturn going through your first house just 3 weeks after this new moon is going to show you how you need to reorganize yourself and get serious. So take your cues already, because the new moon conjunct Saturn is already showing you something about that. It might require a bit more effort on your part to make your dreams come true, but this is about grounding the dreams in something lasting and durable. So don't shy away from that effort and enjoy whatever is coming up for you, Pisces. And I'll see you in the next video.